All right, so we've got a whole stack of documents here all about
Yeah.
the FCA's rules on changing control.
Yeah.
It may sound, I don't know, a little bit dry at first, but trust me, this stuff gets really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's actually relevant
Okay.
to all sorts of situations you might not even think of.
Interesting.
Basically, we're going to be talking about
Yeah.
what happens when somebody wants to either acquire or just gain a lot of influence over a company,
Yeah.
a firm that's regulated by the FCA.
Okay, so like,
It's kind of like
yeah.
if you can imagine, like in a movie or something,
Okay.
you've got this new investor who comes in,
Right.
and suddenly everybody's kind of on edge, like, oh, what's going to change?
Yeah. Yeah.
Except in this case, the FCA
Right.
is the one making sure
Yeah.
that whatever changes happen aren't going to end up harming consumers
Yeah.
or, destabilizing the whole financial system.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So the stakes are actually pretty high here.
Right.
We've got some actual legal text
Okay.
from the Financial Services and Markets Act of 2000.
Wow.
We've also got guidance documents that the FCA puts out themselves.
Right. Right.
And even some real-world scenarios
Ooh.
that show how these rules play out
Interesting.
in practice.
I like it.
So the very first thing
Yeah.
that jumped out at me, at least, from the FCA website
Yeah.
was this message that you need their approval
Right.
before you take control of one of these firms. Otherwise, you could be facing criminal charges.
Whoa. Okay.
No pressure. Right.
So it's serious business.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can see why
Yeah.
when you think about their core mission, protecting consumers, keeping the markets fair, preventing financial crime,
Yeah.
it's a big, big deal.
It all kind of ties into this.
Right.
So are they just looking at
Yeah.
whether someone has a lot of money?
I mean, that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
But they're also doing like a background check, basically, on their character and competence.
Like, how do you even
Well,
assess that?
It's not just about
Yeah.
straight up acquisitions either.
What do you mean?
Like, you can trigger these rules,
Okay.
even without like directly buying a company. The FCA is looking at any situation where someone gets enough ownership or influence to maybe have an impact on how that company operates.
So I did notice that they mentioned on the website exempt firms,
Oh, yeah.
businesses that somehow don't fall under these rules.
Yeah, so like,
There's some surprising ones in there, like sole traders overseas branches of companies.
Interesting.
It seems a little counterintuitive that there's no oversight there.
Well, it often comes down to risk, right? Like sole traders, they're not typically
Okay.
posing a risk to the entire financial system. And overseas branches, they're probably already subject to local regulations wherever they are.
So it's kind of a
Risky.
risk-based approach.
Risk-based approach.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about situations where it's not just
Yeah.
a single person
Right.
taking control?
Yeah.
Like maybe a group working together.
Okay.
I'm thinking of this scenario we have here. It's a family-owned business,
Oh, wow.
and you've got siblings who are battling for control.
Right.
One of them starts buying up shares,
Ooh, sneaky.
trying to get a majority without setting off any alarm,
That's where acting in concert comes in.
acting in concert.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if there's no like formal agreement or anything. If individuals are working together to try to gain control,
Yeah.
the FCA can treat them as one,
Interesting.
like a single controlling entity.
Wow. So even if each sibling
Yeah.
keeps their shareholdings below whatever that threshold is.
Below the threshold, but working together,
Yeah.
the FCA could still step in if
Right.
they think there's something fishy going on.
So family dinners must be fun in that household.
Oh,
But
definitely.
what kind of evidence would they even look for?
Well, they would look at things like communication records, trading patterns,
Okay.
anything that indicates
Yeah.
that there's some sort of like
Yeah.
shared strategy.
Yeah, so you can't really be sneaky about it.
Not really.
What if you end up with a controlling stake
Okay.
by accident?
What do you mean?
Like you didn't even intend to.
Right.
I'm looking at this document here, 2024-1101 FG245.pdf. It's a bit dense, I'll admit, but it talks about how even involuntary control
Oh, wow.
triggers the notification requirement.
Oh.
Like, let's say you own a bunch of shares, and then everybody else sells out. Suddenly, you're in charge.
Right. Yeah.
You didn't do anything, but now you've got to notify the FCA.
It makes sense, though, right?
Yeah.
Because they need to assess whether you're suitable as quickly as possible.
To prevent any potential harm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's about,
So you kind of stumble into this position of power?
Yeah, and suddenly the FCA is knocking at your door.
It seems like it would be a good idea to maybe talk to them
absolutely.
beforehand.
Pre-notification engagement, they call it.
Pre-notification engagement.
Yeah, it can really smooth things over.
The document mentions that. So when would you say?
I think it's particularly valuable when you've got a complex case.
Like what would make something complex?
Like imagine a company's undergoing a major restructuring.
Okay.
Or maybe it's a cross-border deal. Multiple regulatory bodies involved.
Right.
Ironing out those details in advance can save everyone a lot of headaches.
So if you're planning some big shakeup, you should probably chat with the FCA first.
A friendly chat goes a long way.
What makes something complex, though, in their eyes?
Well, it's not just about the size.
Okay.
It could be the nature of the business, the background of the person taking control, the structure of the deal itself.
Okay.
Like if you've got a private equity firm or a hedge fund coming in, the FCA might have some concerns about their investment strategy.
Makes sense.
They're
trying to anticipate risks.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's not just about financial due diligence, right? They're also looking at the person's reputation.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not enough to just have money.
No.
You also have to have you
gotta have a good track record.
A squeaky clean track record.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here?
It's more serious than parking tickets.
Okay.
They're focusing on integrity and professional competence, evidence of, good judgment.
Yeah.
Ethical behavior, the necessary skills and experience to actually lead a firm.
It says in the document.
Yeah.
They even look at your credit history.
Really?
Like, every late payment counts.
I mean, it sounds extreme.
Yeah.
But remember, these firms are handling really sensitive financial information.
That's true.
They play a vital role in the economy, so they need to make sure the person in charge is trustworthy and capable.
So they look at your credit history.
Yeah.
Previous regulatory actions, even your criminal record.
Wow.
So even a small financial misstep
could
come back to haunt you.
It could.
Have you ever seen a case where someone was rejected?
Well, I can't discuss specific cases, but I can say that reputation is a major factor in their decision-making.
So it can be a deal breaker.
Absolutely.
Even if
they're protecting the system. Yeah.
From potential harm.
Right.
And past behavior is often a good indicator of future behavior.
So even if you've turned over a new leaf,
it's tough.
The FCA might still be
a
little bit skeptical.
A little bit skeptical.
There's a lot of emphasis on the past. But what about the future?
That's a great question.
What happens once someone does get approved?
Yeah, what does that say about them?
Yeah, like they've gone through this.
They've passed the test.
Rigorous vetting.
Right.
What does that tell us?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
I think that leads us to some even more interesting territory.
Let's dive into that.
We've talked about the kill before.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the after.
The power and responsibility comes with controlling one of these firms.
That's where it gets really fascinating.
Right, let's get into it.
It's almost like the FCA is giving a seal of approval.
Right, like FCA certified, trustworthy, competent. Yeah, in a way, it's like they're signaling to the market that this person or this company has met all these really strict criteria.
Yeah.
And they're considered fit to be in charge.
You've passed the test.
But then that comes with a lot of responsibility too, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of power.
Exactly.
Over companies that really affect the whole financial system.
It's not just about them.
It's not just about their success.
Decisions affect so many people.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And it raises these questions, about like the relationship between power and responsibility in the financial world.
Right, like how do we...
Does the FCA's process really ensure that these people in charge are going to use their power ethically?
Behave themselves.
Yeah, are they looking out for everyone's best interests?
It's kind of like giving somebody the keys.
I love that.
To a really powerful engine.
Yeah.
You hope they've got the right training and that they're going to use it responsibly.
Right.
But there's always that chance they might misuse it.
Exactly. That's such a good analogy.
And so it comes down to, you can have all these regulations, but ultimately, It's
human judgment.
Human judgment, character determines what's actually going to happen.
That's at the heart of it all, isn't it?
So the FCA can only do so much.
Right.
The rest is really up to the person.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what motivates these people?
Like, what's driving them?
Yeah.
Do they really want to create value?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just about...
Or is it personal gain?
Personal gain.
Yeah.
How do they navigate those ethical gray areas?
Oh, yeah.
That always seem to come up in finance?
The FCA can't see into the future, right?
Right.
They can look at what someone's done in the past.
Their history.
Their finances. Yeah. Their experience.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no guarantee.
Right. You never know.
That someone won't make a bad decision.
So there's this gap.
There is.
Between what the FCA can look at.
Yeah.
And what actually might happen down the road.
Right.
It shows you the limits.
It does.
Of any regulatory system, I guess.
Because you can set up all the rules you want, but you can't completely control how people are gonna behave.
Kind of a sobering thought.
It is.
It really underscores
yeah.
how important it is to keep watching, to hold people accountable, even after they've been approved.
Exactly.
So it's not just a one-time thing.
The FCA's job doesn't end with that stamp of approval.
Right. It's ongoing.
They keep monitoring. They can intervene if things start to go sideways.
It's like this constant balance between trusting and, staying vigilant.
Trust but verify.
Yeah, exactly.
You're exactly.
But does all this focus on reputation and past behavior make the FCA, overly cautious?
I mean, it's possible.
Could it actually stifle innovation?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
A system that's designed to prevent risk could end up limiting opportunity. Yeah. If the bar is set too high, you might miss out on some really great leaders.
People who just haven't had the chance.
Yeah, exactly.
To prove themselves yet.
Who haven't had the time to build that perfect track record.
So it's this trade-off.
It is.
You want to protect the system, but you also want to allow for new ideas, new people.
It's tricky, yeah.
Finding that balance must be really difficult.
It's a constant conversation. It's always evolving.
As the financial world changes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important for people to stay informed.
Absolutely.
To be a part of this conversation.
It doesn't matter if you're an aspiring controller, an investor, or just a regular consumer.
Understanding these regulations, understanding why they're there.
Yeah.
That's crucial.
Absolutely crucial.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of stuff today.
Yeah, we have.
The need for approval, reputation, acting in concert, the power dynamics, the limitations.
It's a lot.
What do you think is the most important thing?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that financial regulation is about more than just the rules.
Okay.
It's about creating a culture of responsibility and integrity.
So it's not just...
It's about recognizing that financial decisions have an impact.
Right, they have consequences.
On real people's lives.
Yeah.
The people in charge have to act ethically.
They have to do
the right thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a big responsibility.
It's about moving beyond just the money, right?
Exactly.
And seeing that there are actual human beings involved.
There are.
The FCA's change in control process is just one piece of this much bigger picture.
Absolutely.
And we have to be vigilant, right?
We do.
To make sure the system is fair and stable.
And that's why...
We all have a role to play.
Exactly.
Whether you're directly involved in finance or just a regular consumer.
Stay informed.
Stay informed, yeah.
Engage in these conversations.
Because knowledge is power.
It is.
And in the world of finance, that power comes with a lot of responsibility.
A lot of responsibility.
Speaking of responsibility, we've covered a lot today.
We have.
But we've really only scratched the surface.
Yeah, it's a complex topic.
So if you're facing a real-life change in control situation or just want to learn more, it's always a good idea.
Definitely.
To seek out some expert guidance.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for that, I highly recommend reaching out to Compliance Consultant.
Oh, they're great.
Home of the compliance doctor. They've got a whole team of experienced professionals who can really help you understand and comply with these FCA requirements.
And you can find them.
You can find them at their website, complianceconsultant.org.
Or give them a call in the UK.
Or if you're in the UK, give them a call. It's 0800-689-0190.
Easy to remember.
They even offer a free.
Oh, that's great.
No obligation. Discovery call.
Yeah, so you could...
So you can chat with them, see if it's a good fit.
Exactly.
It's always good to have a trusted advisor.
Oh, definitely.
When you're navigating this stuff.
Especially with all the complexities.
Yeah, because it can get complicated.
Absolutely.
So taking that first step, reaching out for expert advice.
It can save you so much.
It really can.
Time, money.
Yeah.
Headaches down the road.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Okay, so we've talked about the regulations, reputation, power dynamics, even the ethics of financial decision-making.
It's a lot to think about.
But before we wrap things up here, I want to leave our listener with a final thought.
Okay.
We've talked about the FCA.
Right.
We've talked about the responsibilities of people in control. But what about the firms themselves?
Oh, interesting.
What responsibility do they have in making sure these controllers are acting ethically?
That's a great question.
Looking out for the best interests of the company and its stakeholders.
That opens up a whole other avenue of discussion.
It does, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's about corporate governance, ethical leadership, and how power is structured within these organizations.
Yeah.
It reminds us that regulations can only go so far. It's up to the people in the system.
Exactly.
To make the right choices.
To build
a financial landscape that benefits everyone.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to just have the FCA and the person in charge.
No, not at all.
The firm itself has to play a part too.
Yeah, it's kind of a shared responsibility.
What does that actually look like?
Well, you got to have like a strong code of conduct, right?
Okay, more than just...
Yeah, it can't just be words on paper.
Yeah.
It has to be part of how the firm operates.
But how do you create that kind of culture?
Well, it starts at the top.
What do you mean?
Leaders have to set the example.
Okay.
They can't just talk about ethics. They have to live it.
So lead by example.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
You need transparency, accountability, open communication.
So people feel comfortable speaking up.
Yeah, if they see something wrong.
And it sounds like it's not just about, like, punishment.
No, you have to reward good behavior, too.
So it's about creating an environment where people want to do the right thing.
Exactly, where they feel empowered.
Even when it's hard.
Especially when it's hard.
That makes sense.
Because at the end of the day, it's about building a sustainable business.
Right, one that's built on trust.
Exactly, and that benefits everyone.
So we've talked about the FCA, the responsibilities of the controller, and now the firm itself.
Yeah, it all ties together.
It really does. It's all interconnected.
It's this whole ecosystem.
I think that's a great point.
The FCA sets the stage. Yeah. But it's up to the firms, the people within them.
To actually make it work.
Yeah, to create a financial system that's not just compliant, but ethical.
Ethical, responsible.
And sustainable.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
I agree.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
A lot of complex stuff.
Hopefully our listener has come away with a much better understanding
of not just the rules, but the thinking behind them.
The values.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking to learn more, we encourage you to check out some of the resources we've mentioned.
The FCA website.
The FCA website for sure.
Compliance consultant.
And of course, compliance consultant.
Home of the compliance doctor.
Home of the compliance doctor.
They're a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to dive deeper into this.
So that's all for today's deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
See you then.